Welcome, boys and girls, to our Wednesday evening study. We will be in Revelation chapter 6. I'm going to do something tonight. Been a while since we've done it. I'm actually going to break tonight into two separate sessions and recordings. One's going to be an update on our study looking at Bible patterns in modern times as current events keep unfolding. So I'm going to look at something that's happened recently and tie that into those things. Then we'll switch gears and get back to our study through the book of Revelation, picking up in chapter 6. So this will be a part 1 and a part 2. So for this part 1, let us go to here and here, back to our faithful friend that we've never met, the Israel My Channel guy. I don't even know what his name is. So here's his update on some things that have happened that you may have heard about. And then we'll have some discussion on this and get back into Revelation chapter 6 afterwards. So here's the latest and greatest from Israel My Channel on things that have just been happening.
Okay, guys, so the ceasefire is officially over. Last night, Israel conducted several strikes and eliminated Hamas leaders. After constant breaking of rules by Hamas and the stagnation in the negotiations, Israel decided it is time to act. During phase 1 of the ceasefire agreement, Israel did withdraw from the territories they already controlled in Gaza, and they controlled pretty much the whole Gaza. Instead, Israel created a buffer zone, ensuring that Hamas would not be able to infiltrate once again the territory of Israel. During this first stage of the ceasefire, Hamas released 25 living Israelis, while Israel released 2,000 Arab prisoners. And those were criminals, those were bad people. But Israel decided to pay this price. I created this 3D presentation so that you can imagine how big of a difference it is. And Israel would continue to pay the price of this sacrifice if Hamas would continue to release Jewish hostages from Gaza. But in recent days, they stopped. After many warnings from Israel that there will be consequences for Hamas if they don't resume the agreements of the ceasefire, Israel decided to act. Israeli forces moved to Khan Yunis, Abbasan al-Kabira, and Beit Hanun. Additionally, Israeli Air Force struck targets from the air. This was a big surprise for Hamas, which right now is panicking and is in shock mode and tries to figure out what to do.
This is what Ivy League universities you can get into with a 3.6 GPA. 90%.
And yesterday's operation already brought us news that key Hamas leaders have been eliminated. For example, this guy, Yasser Harb, together with his 5 sons. Another one is Nai Abu Saif. Well, he's not very safe now. And forgive me, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm not an Arab name expert. But another key figure, those people were the ones that were showing off when the hostages were being released. Now they are facing the punishment. Last night, Israeli military really focused on destroying terrorist squads, launch pads, weapons, and also military infrastructure such as tunnels. And I want to confirm here again, this is Hamas' choice because they did not follow the rules of the agreement. And to tell you the truth, Israel was really, really patient to keep this deal going. For the sake of hostages, Israel endured a lot of humiliation. Humiliation how the hostages were treated. They were treated like an object of propaganda. And yet, Israel did restrain itself to give a chance to do everything they could to get those hostages out. But there is a point where you cannot continue. And we have reached that point. But Israel is not only fighting Hamas now because the Houthis in Yemen have also joined the war. They have launched rockets toward Israel last night and today. Fortunately, the Iron Dome is working. but it's an additional threat toward Israel now. Speaking of the Houthis, they now declared war on the US, and they even attempted to fire rockets at the US Navy. Of course, the rockets didn't have a chance against the US defense. However, they did it, and that was a red line that they crossed. And US actually had to shoot down all the rockets that were fired from Yemen. Not all ships, however, are so sophisticated and have the defenses of the United States. And really, the Houthis have been a nightmare for trade ships that go through this narrow strait. The red dots show you the ships that have been damaged or destroyed from the Houthi-controlled territories. And remember that through this narrow passage, 12 to 15% of all world's commerce goes through. So if you disrupt this important trade route, you are really messing up the world commerce. This is, of course, the quickest route from Asia to Europe. And you know who's suffering the most because of this disruption? Egypt. It is estimated that Egypt loses about $800 million per month. They control the Suez Canal, and the less ships go through that Suez Canal, they get less money. And it's not a good time for Egypt to have problems economically. They're just building a new capital outside of Cairo, and they really need the money. Of course, the United States did not leave the Houthi attacks without an answer. They even used some of the most sophisticated weapons, the Tomahawk rockets, to strike down targets within Houthi-controlled territory. But the fight is very inefficient because you are using very expensive weapons, such as the Tomahawk rockets, and you are firing them at a very primitive equipment. So, for example, one Tomahawk rocket costs $1.4 million, which is a lot of money compared to what the Houthis are using. So, for example, Zezal-3 rocket that the Houthis use costs from $20,000 to $40,000, so significantly less than what the US is using to target their arsenal. But guys, soon Israel may save the day once again, because Israel has announced that they are almost done with releasing their breakthrough weapon, a Star Wars-like weapon called the Iron Beam. If this is gonna work, this is gonna be revolutionary. It's gonna significantly lower the costs from $50,000 for an interceptor to destroy an incoming rocket to just $3. If Israel will be able to pull this off, I mean, this is going to be a game changer. And they're saying they're very, very close. And I understand there are many countries that are working on this technology. The United States is working on it. The United Kingdom is working on it. But it seems that Israel, once again, is the closest. And Israel really, really needs it. So if Israel gets it, I mean, the US may also benefit from it greatly. So let's hope this is not just a rumor, but actually this is something that's going to happen. And we'll see a significant change on the battlefield, where people like Hamas will not be able to terrorize the citizens of Israel anymore. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope this report was helpful. It looks like I'm going to do more of those, so make sure to subscribe to my channel because it looks like we have entered another stage of war in Gaza. If you like what you listened and you think it's worth your time, please consider supporting it.
Yes, we are already fans. Thank you very much. So that is the latest and greatest with current events. Again, we've been talking in our Wednesday series, Viral Patterns in Modern Times, with the Hamas attack ever since October 7th, 2023, and this conflict that is still going on, hostages still being held. and how this is continuing to possibly play into setup for a teeing up of end times things that are to come. So does anyone have any reactions or questions to what was presented in this video by Israel, my channel? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was, unfortunately, I heard some of it. It was pretty fascinating, very informative. I really benefited. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Sister Diana. I really appreciate the time he takes with the visuals to kind of help put it into place. And it had been a while, well, we know the name Somalia, right? But it had been a while since I'd seen where it was and realized it's right across the water from Yemen, where the Houthis are. So, yeah,
Like what?
exactly. Yeah.
The captions spell it differently every time.
Oh yeah, those things are somewhat comical sometimes. Yes. And so also keep in mind that those folks there in Yemen are fighting what's called a proxy war. What proxy means is someone fighting in your behalf, or you're working through others. And so they're really a proxy of Iran, Persia in the Bible. And we know the conflict between Persia and Israel, and all those things that are playing out. And I found it really interesting. We might not get there for time's sake, but remember that map that showed the trade going up the Red Sea and into the Suez Canal, and affects Egypt. There's Ethiopia and Sudan. So and then off to the side is Libya. So think about, and we'll get to this as we go in Revelation 6 and forward, but Ethiopia and Sudan, Cush, Libya being put, these nations that are in Ezekiel 38 and 39 about end times countries and all that stuff, and Egypt's role in that too. And so keep those thoughts kind of on the back burner as we go. So all good with that? Yeah, Brother Clay.
Okay, something I don't quite understand when it comes to these wars.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Okay, the Houthis, what are they called?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Houthis, Houthi.
Are they, first off, are they a race? Or are they just an army of men?
They're actually, as he mentioned, pretty primitive, pretty ragtag, but they're just being, if I could put it this way, Iran is using them as a kind of fodder. Okay, yeah, in that sense.
Why, when they launched missiles at the United States ship, why did not the United States just completely vaporize them, be done with?
We
And
might,
same with
yeah.
North.
Yeah, we might be pretty close to seeing that happen. Our current administration bombarded them pretty heavily, and just in the last 24, 48 hours. And so we'll see when the smoke clears, the aftermath of that, how strong they're standing and where they go from here. So yeah, but yeah, I think it's long since past the point where, okay, just be done with it, But again, trying to do quote unquote the right thing, or trying to, like he mentioned Israel's patience, trying to bring back every hostage alive, and all the frustrating delays that they've dealt with, and finally gets to a point where you just got to go in and stop them, because you can only, dealing with evil, and that's what this is. This ungodly disregard for human life is something that.
Like those old horror movies or whatever, the bad guy gets knocked to the ground, knocked out, everybody ignores him. He's gonna get back up.
Yeah.
And so that's my thought on, they do this over and over, just annihilate.
You just described every horror movie.
Yeah.
What do you mean the serial killer is, he's on the ground? Of course the serial killer is not going to get up for 5 sequels. but no, evil doesn't relent. Evil doesn't quit. Evil event, you have to either completely disable them, or you have to completely wipe them out.
Yeah,
because they're gonna. Yes.
It's still got that evil. He's gonna rebuild.
Yeah, and they don't play by the same rules, of course. Bad guys don't play by rules that the good guys do. So there's that too. Yeah. So definitely keep Israel in prayer, and we'll certainly be talking more about the nation of Israel, their relation to our Sunday school adult class with Mount Sinai, and our Wednesday night class here in Revelation. and even ties into our preaching series in the book of Hebrews. Okay, so that's a good stopping point for this section. We'll go ahead and stop that and stop that.